I just found out my wife was secretly laundering $300, $0 through our joint account with her boss. Then she disappeared with everything, including my house worth over $1 million and our life savings. Now my stepbrother is threatening to sue me for a share I didn't even know existed. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here telling a story like this, but life has a way of throwing punches when you least expect it. The craziest part. It all started with what seemed like a normal day, until I stumbled across something that turned my world upside down. Honestly, I still can't believe how everything unraveled so fast. One moment I was just a regular guy, working my ass off trying to build a life with my wife. We had our problems, sure, but I thought we were solid. I mean, she was a little bitchy sometimes. She liked to throw fits, get her way, call me lazy or stupid if things didn't go her way. But I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. We live in a pretty nice house in a suburb that's decent enough. Nothing fancy, but I worked hard to get us here. Was the kind of woman who always looked perfect. High-end clothes, designer bags, the kind of girl who'd tell me she was too busy to cook dinner but had time to go shopping or meet her boss, Mark. Yeah, Mark. I always thought he was just her boss, her friend. They'd work late sometimes, stay behind at the office, but I never suspected anything more than that. She tell me she was tired, stressed, that I was just paranoid. But then one night I decided to check our joint bank account out of boredom. I've been suspicious lately. She'd come home later than usual, her phone was constantly locked, and she was acting weird about money. I figured it was nothing, but I wanted to see if she was hiding something. That's when I saw it. A transfer 300 sent from our joint account to some account I didn't recognize. I almost dropped my phone. My heart started pounding. How the hell did that happen? I checked the details and it was marked as a business expense. But who the hell makes a business expense of $300, $0? And why was it coming from us? I was stunned. I thought maybe it was some kind of mistake, so I dug deeper. Turns out had been laundering money through our joint account for months. She'd been funneling cash to her boss, Mark, behind my back. They'd been running some sort of scam, probably involving fake invoices or shell companies, I don't even know. All I know is she'd been secretly laundering hundreds of thousands of dollars and I had no idea. I felt numb, like I'd been punched in the gut. How could I not see this? How could she hide this from me? The worst part. I found out that wasn't just cheating on me with Mark. She was sleeping with him too. I found messages on her phone, texts, photos, even recordings of her and Mark doing sex stuff. She'd been lying to me right in my face. All those nights she claimed she was working late. She was with him, probably screwing around while I was at home, clueless. It was like a slap in the face every time I thought about it. I confronted her the next morning. I lost my temper, screamed at her, demanded answers. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, like she enjoyed the chaos she was causing. She lied and lied, said Mark was just a friend, that I was crazy, that I was paranoid. But I had the proof, screenshots, bank statements, all of it. Still, she kept denying everything, acting innocent, like I was the one who was crazy for suspecting her. She told me I was just insecure, that I didn't trust her, that she loved me but she had needs that I couldn't meet. I could see right through her bullshit. She was a master liar and I was just too blind to see it. That moment hit me hard. I felt betrayed on every level, by her, by Mark, by myself for not seeing it sooner. I'd built this life with her and now I wondered if any of it was real. How could I be so stupid? How could she do this to us, to me? And the money, God, the money. I started thinking about everything I'd worked for, everything I'd done to get us here, and it all felt like it was crumbling in my hands. I was furious, heartbroken, and utterly lost. I didn't even know where to begin to figure out what to do next. That's when I realized this was just the beginning of a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. After I confronted that morning, everything changed in an instant. She was still acting smug, like she thought she had all the cards, but I could see the cracks in her facade. She kept insisting she was innocent, that she was just helping Mark with some business stuff. But I knew better. I had the proof, and I wasn't about to let her spin her lies anymore. I told her I wanted her out of the house, that I was calling the bank to freeze the accounts, and that we were going to figure out what the hell was going on. She threw a tantrum, yelling, crying, calling me paranoid. That bitch even had the nerve to say I was overreacting, that I was insecure and jealous, like I was the one cheating or laundering money behind her back. I could see her trying to manipulate me, trying to turn the tables, but I wasn't falling for it. I told her to pack her shit and leave, and she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I immediately called the bank, froze the joint account, and ordered a full audit of our finances. I needed answers fast. While I waited for the bank to respond, I started digging into the transactions myself. I pulled up all the statements, traced the money trail. What I found was worse than I imagined. Had been laundering money for months through fake invoices, shell companies, offshore accounts. She'd been funneling hundreds of thousands, no, over 1 million, through our account into accounts I didn't even know existed. The money was hidden in obscure places, and it was clear she'd planned to disappear with it all. And then I discovered something else that made my stomach turn. Wasn't just cheating on me with Mark. She was planning to leave me, take everything, and run away. I found emails between her and Mark discussing their escape plan, talking about how much money she'd take, how she'd get away with it. The house, our savings, everything gone. I couldn't believe she was capable of this level of betrayal. It was like finding out my wife was a criminal mastermind and a cheat rolled into one. The bank confirmed the freeze, thank God, and I got a lawyer. I needed to figure out my legal options. But even as I was doing all this, I felt numb. I kept replaying the moments when I thought we were happy, the vacations, the quiet nights, the stupid little jokes. All of it was a lie. My trust was shattered. I kept asking myself how I didn't see this coming, how I missed all the signs. She was so good at lying, so good at hiding her true self behind that bitchy, manipulative facade. I started to realize that I'd been controlling the narrative for so long that I was just a pawn in her game. She'd always been bitchy, yes, but I thought that was just her personality. Turns out it was part of her manipulation. She knew exactly how to keep me in the dark, how to make me doubt myself, how to make me feel guilty for even suspecting her. But I wasn't going to be played anymore. I was done being the fool. The more I found out, the angrier I got. I wanted revenge, not just for the money, but for the years I wasted trusting her, for the betrayal I felt every time I thought of her and Mark in bed, for the way she lied to my face. I decided I wasn't just going to let her walk away with everything. If she thought she could screw me over and disappear, she had another thing coming. I was going to fight back, make her regret every lie, every betrayal, every dollar she stole. That's when I started planning my next move. I didn't tell anyone yet, just kept calm, gathered evidence, and formulated a plan. I was going to take everything she'd done and use it against her. She thought she was smart, that she had the upper hand, but I was about to show her just how wrong she was. The game was on, and I was ready to play. After I had the initial shock wear off and the legal stuff started to take shape, I knew I had to act fast. Was already gone. She packed her bags and disappeared with the house, the savings, and who knows what else. I felt like I was left standing in the rubble of a life I thought I understood, but I wasn't about to let her get away with it completely. I had enough evidence now to turn the tables. The first thing I did was hire a private investigator. I needed to know exactly where she went, who she was talking to, and what her plans were. Turns out, she didn't just leave with a suitcase full of clothes. She opened a new bank account under a fake name, bought a new phone, and was actively trying to cover her tracks. The Pi found her in some shady motel about 3 states away, staying with a guy who looked like a typical sleaze bag. I couldn't believe she was so reckless. She thought she could just run and hide, but I was determined to find her first. Meanwhile, I started the legal process to get full control of the assets. My lawyer told me that I had a good shot at recovering some of the money, especially since laundering scheme was so obvious now. But the house, that was harder. She transferred ownership into her sister's name before she left, thinking that would protect her. I had to fight for that in court, but I was prepared. I knew I had to be strategic, patient, and relentless. In the meantime, I started going through all the messages, emails, and documents I'd collected. I wanted to understand her mindset, how she manipulated me, how she planned everything. I found dozens of texts between her and Mark talking about their escape, their plans to start fresh somewhere else, maybe even out of the country. It was clear she'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. The worst part, she kept lying to my face about everything. She'd tell me she loved me, that she was just stressed, that Mark was just a friend. But the truth was far darker. I also uncovered some shocking details about the money laundering. She'd set up fake invoices for consulting services, which she never actually provided. She'd created shell companies in offshore zones, moving the money around in complex layers. She'd been doing this so long that she'd become quite skilled at covering her tracks. At least, that's what I thought at first. Now I knew she'd been planning her escape for a long time, and I was just a piece in her game. As I pieced everything together, I started to feel this strange mixture of anger and relief. Anger because she betrayed me so badly, and relief because I finally saw her for what she really was: a liar, a thief, a cheat. I realized I'd wasted years trying to fix things, trying to make her happy, but she was never really interested in that. She just wanted her freedom, her money, her new life. And now, with all the proof in hand, I was determined to get justice, whatever that meant. One night I sat in the dark, staring at the bank statements and her messages, wondering how I'd let it get this far, how I'd been so blind. I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare, waiting to wake up and realize it was all a horrible mistake. But I knew deep down I couldn't turn back. This was real, and I had to fight for what was left of my life, my reputation, my dignity. I wasn't just going to roll over and let her take everything. No way. I made a promise to myself then. I was going to expose her, recover what was mine, and make sure she paid for what she did. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I knew I'd find a way. The pieces were falling into place, and I was ready to take her down, one way or another. By the time I had all the evidence I needed, I knew I had to act decisively. Was still out there, somewhere, probably thinking she'd pulled off the biggest scam of her life. I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I had a feeling she thought she was untouchable, that her lies and manipulations had sealed her victory, but I was determined to turn the tables. The first thing I did was confront my lawyer with everything I'd uncovered: the bank transactions, the shell companies, her plans to run. He told me I had a solid case to freeze her assets, even to go after her for fraud and theft. But he warned me it wouldn't be easy, was clever, and she'd covered her tracks well. Still, I had enough to start the process. I filed for a court order to freeze her new accounts, traced her last known location, and began preparations to subpoena her communications. I wasn't going to let her vanish with everything I worked for, not without a fight. While waiting for the legal process to unfold, I got in touch with a private investigator again. I needed eyes on her, someone who could keep tabs and find out her next move. It didn't take long. She'd moved into a small apartment in the city, and from what I gathered, she was trying to start fresh. That didn't matter to me anymore. What mattered was making sure she paid for what she'd done, and that I recovered what she stole. I also started talking to some financial forensic experts. They helped me trace the money trail more precisely, showing me exactly how she'd laundered the cash through multiple offshore accounts. It was sophisticated but not impossible to unravel. I learned that she'd transferred millions out of the country, hiding her assets behind layers of fake companies and dummy accounts. Every step she took was calculated, designed to make her untouchable. But I wasn't about to let her win. One night, I got a call from my lawyer. The court had granted the freeze. Her accounts were temporarily blocked, and she was served with legal papers. That was a small victory, but I knew the fight wasn't over. Was still out there, probably panicking, trying to figure out her next move. I started preparing for a full-blown court battle, wanting to get back every dollar she'd stolen and to make sure she faced consequences. Meanwhile, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I kept replaying everything: her bitchy smirks, her lies, the way she'd manipulate everyone around her. She'd always been good at hiding her true self, but now I saw her for what she was: a dishonest, selfish woman who only cared about herself. I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I'd loved her once, or at least I thought I did. Now I saw her as a thief, a liar, a manipulator. How could someone I trusted so completely turn into this monster? I also started to think about what my next step should be. Should I try to save the marriage, or cut her out completely? The thought of her with Mark, running away with everything, made my stomach turn. I didn't want to be the guy who got played and left with nothing. I wanted justice, closure, and to rebuild my life without her dragging me down. It was clear to me now that she never loved me. She only loved her money and her freedom to do whatever she wanted. The hardest part was the emotional toll. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and furious. How could she lie to my face for so long? How could she cheat on me, steal from me, and then vanish like a ghost? But I knew I couldn't dwell on the past. I had to stay focused, keep pushing forward, and make sure this all ended with me coming out on top. I wasn't just fighting for my money, I was fighting for my dignity. And I was determined to win. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Every time I thought I had a handle on things, something new popped up. Another lie, another secret was hiding. I kept thinking about how she always played the victim, how she'd cry and whine about how stressed she was, how I just didn't understand her. But now I saw it for what it was, manipulation. She'd been running her con for months, maybe longer. She was the bitchy wife with a manipulative streak that I never really saw until it was all laid bare. One night, I received a call from my lawyer. The court had extended the freeze on her accounts, and they were working on a subpoena to get her communications, emails, and transaction records. The goal was to connect all the dots, show how she laundered the money, who else was involved, and most importantly, prove she intended to defraud me. That was the key. If I could prove she lied and stole with intent, I'd have a much stronger case. I also started consulting with a financial investigator who specialized in offshore accounts and money laundering. He showed me how it used fake invoices, shell companies, and offshore trusts to hide her assets. She'd been planning her escape for a long time, trying to set up a new life somewhere far away. That realization fueled my anger even more. She thought she was so clever, so untouchable, but I was going to make sure she paid for every dollar she took from us. Meanwhile, I tracked her movements through the pie. She was bouncing between different places, always trying to stay under the radar, but she was sloppy sometimes, leaving behind receipts, using her real phone, making mistakes. I collected all of it, every slip, every lie, every attempt to cover her tracks. I knew she was scared, but she underestimated me. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. The biggest blow came when I found out she'd already transferred a sizable chunk of money into an offshore account in the islands. That was the money she was planning to run with, probably to start a new life somewhere no one could find her. I felt sick. All those years, all those plans, gone in an instant. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I was finally seeing her for what she truly was. The bitchy wife, the manipulator, the thief. And I was ready to fight to the end. I decided to go to the police with everything I had. I knew it was risky, might try to make me look bad, spin her story, but I didn't care. I had proof of her laundering, her infidelity, her plans to leave me with nothing. I wanted her held accountable. I wanted justice, not just for the money, but for the years I wasted trusting her. The police took my case seriously, especially once I provided the evidence of the laundering and her attempts to hide her assets. They started their own investigation, tracking the offshore transfers and trying to locate her. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I also knew I was finally on the right side of things. I was no longer the clueless husband, the naive guy who believed his wife was perfect. I was the guy fighting back, taking control of the mess she'd left behind. Looking back, I realize how much I've learned about trust, about manipulation, about what true loyalty looks like. Was never the person I thought she was. She was a bitchy, manipulative scam artist who used me and then discarded me like yesterday's trash. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I'm not going to let her destroy me or my life. I'm going to fight for what's mine, and I'll rebuild from this mess. It's going to take time, but I refuse to be the victim anymore. I'm done with her lies, her betrayal, her money scams. Now, it's all about reclaiming what's left and moving forward, without her. As I sit here reflecting on everything that's happened, I realize how much this ordeal has changed me. Betrayal was brutal. She lied, cheated, laundered money, and then vanished with it all, leaving me to pick up the pieces of a life I thought I knew. It's of anger, sadness, and frustration, but through it all I've learned some hard truths. Trust is fragile, and some people are good at disguising their true nature until it's too late. I think what's hit me hardest is realizing how much I let myself be blind to her manipulations. I kept trying to see the good in her, to believe she was just stressed or overwhelmed, but deep down I knew she was hiding something. Now I've taken steps to rebuild, not just my bank account, but my sense of self. The legal battles are still ongoing, and whereabouts remain unknown, but I refuse to let her define me. I've learned that revenge isn't about getting even or punishing her. It's about reclaiming my life and making sure she doesn't get away with destroying everything I worked so hard for. I've become more cautious, more aware of who I trust, and more determined to protect myself from people like her. The one thing I want to say to anyone reading this, whether you're going through something similar or just trying to make sense of a betrayal, is to keep your head clear. Don't let the people who lie and manipulate you take away your dignity. Gather evidence, get legal help, and don't be afraid to fight back. It's not easy, and it hurts like hell, but in the end, you come out stronger. I've learned that no matter how much someone tries to tear you down, you have the power to stand up and take control. It's gone now, probably trying to start fresh somewhere else, but I know the truth will catch up with her. And as for me, I'll rebuild what I lost and make sure I never let someone like her do this to me again. Life's too short to be played for a fool. I'll take the lessons, the pain, and turn them into something better. That's what this has all taught me. And I hope anyone else in a similar situation finds the strength to do the same.